Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time! 3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Ayla's gone! Goodbye, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. So glad to have you along for the ride as always, and hope your day is starting off right and your week's going okay. If not, we'll get it headed in that direction. Hopefully it's going to be warming up. I'm done with this being cold business, man, but spring will get here eventually, or it's just going to go straight to summer. One of the two. Not sure exactly how that is going to work out, but that's usually what our luck is. It just goes straight to summer. But big show today, as always. Mike DeCourcy will join us. Sam King from the West Lafayette Journal and Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com. Also, as we'll get caught up on all the things that are going on around the conference and in the college game. Hope you're ready to get at it. Some things that I noticed. An attorney representing current and former college athletes in their proposed $2.18 billion House NCAA settlement said a potential executive order from Donald Trump on the issue of NIL in college sports would be unmerited and unhelpful, and criticized former Alabama coach Nick Saban's 11th hour self-importance due to his reported involvement in the discussions, and I could not agree with that more. He's always sticking his nose in stuff, and of all the people, he was one of the cheatingest SOBs that there was. He wants to act like it didn't happen at Alabama, but Jimbo Fisher sure shut him up with one remark a few years ago. So it's real aggravating when people like that start speaking as if they're holier than thou. The Wall Street Journal reported late last week that Trump met with Saban while the president was in Tuscaloosa to give the commencement speech at Alabama's graduation ceremonies. The 7-time national championship coach warned that the compensation of athletes was creating an uneven playing field. It wasn't uneven when you were paying them? Hello? Huh. It wasn't uneven when the SEC was doing all the crap that they were doing? Are you kidding me? While he was a coach, Saban initially opposed NIL payments to athletes because they were already getting them, pushing to add restrictions and red tape through national legislation to add some sort of control, attorney Steve Berman said. During his time scrutinizing the athlete pay structure, he made tens of millions of dollars and previously the highest paid coach in college football. Yeah, he was making what, 10 million, 11, 12 million dollars a year. So it's to me, it's just disingenuous for someone like that to stick his nose in. And especially when Alabama didn't have such a great year last year. Imagine that. Alabama is now on a level playing field with everybody else. Oh, poor Alabama. And to me, that's about what this is about. It's ridiculous. There are certain people that don't need to be sticking their nose in this. And it's people that don't know the first damn thing about sports. And it doesn't matter if it's President Trump or President whomever. And it doesn't matter if it's Democrat or Republican. They don't know diddly squat, but they're always wanting to stick their nose in to be the hero. They think they're going to be the hero. And even Tommy Tuberville last year, he called Indiana the team that went out and bought him a football team. So that shows you how out of touch these people are. And this guy is a former college coach, a major college coach in Tommy Tuberville. But he had no understanding of what he was talking about and still chirped it out. Trump has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And Saban sees it how he wants to see it through the eyes of what's best for an Alabama. So we'll see what that does. But yeah, not that I think that there are things that need to be fixed, but I don't know how you limit how much somebody can make. I mean, it's pretty much against the law to do that in this country. Unless the only reason that it can be even slightly done in the professional level is because they have collective bargaining and agreement amongst the players that have agreed to certain things. So you don't have that in college. So that's going to be a hard deal to reach to. No details have emerged about a potential executive order regarding NIL, which has become a catch-all abbreviation for a number of it. Yeah, NIL is now covering everything. Anytime somebody gets paid, it's NIL. That's not true. The rev share coming up, not NIL, not even related. Totally different. Coach Saban and Trump's 11th hour talks of executive orders and other meddling are just one unneeded self-involvement, Berman said. This is the attorney. College athletes are spearheading historic changes and benefiting massively from NIL deals. They don't need this unmerited interference from a coach only seeking to protect the system that made him tens of millions of dollars. So you got that going for you, which is nice. So there's that. Thoughts on that? Full tide. Oh, there you go. Fold tide. Like that. Fold tide. That's pretty good. Kenneth says Congress has way more important legislation to get enacted. This should take none of their time. I can't say I disagree with that. Although I can't say that I don't completely disagree with some involvement somewhere, but not one person. Not a person who, and I am not political. This is not Republican or Democrat, but not someone like any president who usually doesn't know jack about sports. And Trump doesn't know any more about sports than anybody else. He knows what someone sticks in his ear. That's it. And I'm sure Saban filled his ear with the things that Saban wanted to be said. And so now that is going to be the mantra, which it's crap. But what are you going to do? Justin agrees. It's just, I'm not saying that it wouldn't be nice to have some guardrails. There should be. My biggest deal is the transfer portal. That's where it should start. This unrelenting ability to just meander about. That's something that has to be worked on. I'm not sure what all, until you have a collective bargaining agreement, what can be done about the money. We saw Brian says, plus Saban is a terrible verbo host. He's pretty funny on that commercial, though, I gotta say. There's a nice grill out there, but don't touch that. That's one of my favorite lines. Oh man. John says Wiss OG could have played another year at IU. He was just getting started. Yeah, he's rolling with the Knicks. How are the Knicks doing? I know that. How about the Nuggets last night? They opened up their series with the Oklahoma City Thunder and pull off a 121-119 win as Aaron Gordon sunk a go-ahead three for the Nuggets. We'll see how that works out. But late surge gives Nuggets the 1-0 lead there in that series. No one really expected that. We'll see how we've seen Oklahoma City respond, and when you anger them, they get a little upset. Apparently foggy out there this morning for a lot of people earlier. Looking forward to Mike DeCourcy. We'll talk a little bit about that. Sam King will join. We're going to talk about the Big Ten, and then Alec Lasley will get us caught up on all things Indiana on the basketball side and football side, as football continues to add some pieces, but just the right ones. And lots of guys, they are working recruiting. I mean, future recruiting, they're not, you can tell that Kurt Cignetti is not living in the portal at all. Indiana has 7 commits at this point right now in the 2026 recruiting cycle already. And over the weekend hosted several of its top targets moving forward. And apparently they impressed these guys. A new prediction in favor of the Hoosiers. Fort Wayne up there on our fans listening on 1380 The Fan. Fort Wayne Northrop receiver. Boy, I'm going to butcher his first name. Jerquadden Guilford took his first visit, and talking to a source close to him, the Hoosiers have moved into pole position. For those of you who are not race fans, that means number 1 spot. Tennessee is the main competition, and dialogue continues with Ohio State. So there are 2 other programs to watch, but it's IU setting the pace heading into this summer. The On3 industry tabs Guilford as the number 3 prospect in the state. The Hoosiers already have the number 1 player in the state committed in cornerback Casimir Hicks. Guilford would be another interesting addition. That is a major change. And I talked about that a long time ago, how Indiana's going to have to flip the narrative in the recruiting. The state, they're going to have to get the guys instead of being the third option. That seems to be happening now. So good for them. We've got plenty more coming at you. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News would join us next. Take a pause for the cause. Back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after this.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's number 1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's number 1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. And looking forward to hopefully being joined by Mike DeCourcy here soon. Usually have him on already. But I was talking about Indiana's football recruiting going very well right now. Indiana extends an offer on the basketball side as well. We'll talk about that with Alec Lasley joins us. But football side, I'm impressed by Kurt Signetti not living in the portal. I mean, they are really making the mix of adding recruits, future recruits, 26 recruits, 27 recruits. They are doing, they're acting like this is how it used to be in essence, but they are getting the better recruits now, as I just talked about with Indiana already having the top recruit in the state of Indiana and now going after and in the lead for another. That was not the case very long ago, and that was Purdue kind of had really gotten a hold on the recruiting of this state of Indiana, and Indiana was, and then of course the elite talent. Well, they had other places, but that could soon to be changing as Indiana starting to land those higher profile players from this state. And that is it's a difference maker. When you start getting the better players, obviously things go well. So as their recruiting continues to improve, their portal prospects continue to improve. I've said all along, I think this is going to be a better team this upcoming season than they were last season. I don't think the record is necessarily going to be quite as good, but they've got a tough road schedule, as I've mentioned, but they're making impressions on these guys, man. Winning, first of all, winning cures everything. Say it all the time, and it does. And it's made a huge difference for Indiana. One season of winning, one season's all it took. So winning does cure a lot. It cures a lot within the state. One of the kids, I think it was, which was sent out a tweet the other day that said, the best in Indiana, go to Indiana. And he wasn't even an IU recruit, at least not yet. So there's that. But that shows you the power that it has already. And what Kurt Signetti is doing is resonating across the state with these players, across these. They see this stuff, man. It's too hard to ignore. They know what's going on. But although I think Purdue is going to make some great strides this year, to be honest with you, I'm looking forward to talking to Sam King about that, because I think that they're going to make strides. They've gotten some guys out of the portal, some good hits, which is surprising. I mean, personally, if I was a player, I'm like, okay, why would I go to Purdue unless it was a good NIL package or because of playing time? There's a possibility there. I get that. But I always see it as something. It's so hard to build a football program when it was down. But they've been making inroads. We'll see if that can continue, as Indiana has now become I don't want to say a football power. I'm not sure if I could use that word just yet, but they are definitely a program to be reckoned with, without question. Going to the CFP one time does not make you a power, I guess, but they're the team of the hour right now. They are, until they are dethroned, best team in the state without question. And, well, you got Notre Dame. Kind of forgot about that. But Indiana chasing Notre Dame. Kurt Signetti wants Indiana to be the best program in the state. Now, that's a lofty goal, of course, with Notre Dame far up north. But they're not man, they should be in a conference. I just not being in a conference drives me insane for them because it gives them some advantages. But it worked for them last year, and I'm sure it will continue to work for them this year. Can Indiana get back to the college football playoffs this year? Yeah, they can. It's going to be a little more difficult as their schedule is more difficult, but I think that they're going to be as more prepared for it. The coaching staff has been through this now. I mean, that's different than anything they had been through before. So they've been through this run. They know what that's like. And they also know the schedule is going to be more difficult, a little more daunting with those road games at Iowa, Oregon, and Penn State. And that's with a Big Ten opener against Illinois, which will not be the easiest thing in the world. But you got to get by them. To be considered legit, instead of all the flack that Indiana caught last year, you go through this schedule, and anybody that says a word is just a mouth runner. It just doesn't much matter because this is a legit schedule. You're playing at Iowa, at Oregon, at Penn State. All three of those teams alone are probably going to be chasing a CFP appearance, in addition to opening up the Big Ten with Illinois, who will be chasing a Big Ten appearance. Other than that, the back half of Indiana's schedule, their schedule's front-loaded this year. I mean, the toughest three back-to-back games, without question, are games 4, 5, and 6. You open up at home against Illinois, but they're a team that was just outside of the CFP last year. Then you go to Iowa and Oregon in back-to-back games. Now, on the backside, you've got Michigan State and Bloomington. You've got UCLA and Bloomington in back-to-back games. Then you go to a Maryland team that's been kind of decimated. Then you have that game at Penn State. Then you come back home to play Wisconsin and go on the road to play Purdue. So I think that is, without question, the easiest ride. Mike is on vacation this week, by the way. So Mike won't be joining us today. So I'm just going to keep filling in. All right. But so that's where we are on the football side of things for the Hoosiers. Now, Purdue, like I said, they've been adding some guys. They picked up some good receivers and some good spot players. They have such a tough schedule too, though. They're not doing themselves any favors. A lot of people talk about Indiana with their 3 non-con games playing cupcakes. Well, that's because then they go against Illinois, Iowa, and Oregon. Purdue, however, man, they've got some tough non-con games, man, and that does not, you're not doing yourselves any favors at all, especially in the situation they're in. It's a few years ago when Indiana canceled that game with Louisville, bought their way out of it. It was because they knew they were in a transition and that they needed to give themselves some breathing room, or essence, which in retrospect, I actually would have liked to have seen that game now. I wonder if Indiana wouldn't have just beaten Louisville. And that would have really added to last season. But they did what they did because they knew that they needed to get this team and the program off to a better start in the under the new regime. And Purdue needs that. Unfortunately, they have those tough non-con games. I think they play Notre Dame again. Not going to be fun for those guys. So you got that going. And who is going to be the Big Ten king next year? I mean, who's going to dethrone Ohio State? You know, Michigan's going to be coming at them, but Ohio State is still the king until someone dethrones them. Penn State, kind of loaded. They've got their quarterback returning and always tough defensively. They will have their third defensive coordinator in 3 years, though. There is that. Indiana goes to Penn State early in November, on November 8th. I doubt that'll be a whiteout, kind of late in the year for that. But I have not been to Penn State personally, and I will be going to that game. Looking forward to it. But this is an important year for Indiana football. They have, to me, if you want to send the message that you have taken that next step, I think that they need to win one of those road games that I talked about. Now, they also need to win one of those road games to make it back to the CFP, as I have said a lot. Because you can only get there. I think that they can get there going 10-2 with that schedule. Now, that'll be tight. But having a road win over one of those other teams will boost you up. It's a hell of a lot better than having lost to Northern Illinois like Notre Dame did. But, of course, Notre Dame carries a lot more weight than Indiana does as far as the name brand goes. Greg Popovich is done as a coach in the NBA, the longtime coach of the San Antonio Spurs. And what they win? 5 titles? Former Hoosier. You know, he's a Hoosier, by the way, Greg Popovich. Went to the same high school as our good friend Rick Bozich up in the region. Our folks listening on WJOB. But, yeah, he's done. Started dealing with some health issues, which is his main issue. Mitch Johnson extended his hand to Greg Popovich, shook it, and then pulled him in for a big hug, and that was that. The torch was officially passed. It's a new era in San Antonio. Mitch Johnson is now the new coach. But, health issues just got the better of him. He suffered a stroke 6 months ago. Oh, I didn't realize he'd suffered a stroke. Popovich spoke publicly Monday for the first time since suffering a stroke 6 months ago, saying at the news conference where the Spurs formally introduced Johnson as his replacement that the time was right to make the move. He's wearing a shirt that says El Jefe. Things are getting better by the day, but it's not good enough for what we plan ahead, Popovich said. So it's time to make this change. Flanked by Spurs greats Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili, 76-year-old Popovich, speaking far more softly than he has in the past, said his health is improving and that he fully believes in Johnson. So there's one of the greats going by the wayside. Man, long time presence in the NBA and a winner. Been there for a long time. But we wish him the best. Like I said, former Hoosier from up in the region. We'll get Rick's take on that on Wednesday. But he was he had a run with the Spurs. Very successful run as a head coach. So shout out to former Hoosier Greg Popovich and Region Rat. Wonder how long it's been since he's been back home. Been a minute, I would imagine. But maybe they should bring El Jefe home and give him a day. Make it a big day just for him. Let's see. Indiana also on the football side of things. Lots more going on. In-state offensive tackle raves about Indiana. Hammond Morton, another region rat. Hammond Morton, senior offensive tackle. Cameron Miller is another one of Indiana's most coveted in-state targets. What stood out was the players and the staff really showed how great their program is, Miller told On3. It was amazing I really can see myself there for the next 4 years of my life. Coach was around the whole time throughout the whole day, and he was explaining to me how much I mean to this program and that how they need tackles like me and that I was a priority to them. My host, which was Evan Parker, was very great with me while I was there. He taught me a lot, not only about football, but about being a student athlete at Indiana. He told me that Coach Bostad is going to push me to be the best. And from what I've seen, he can do that. So West Virginia, Texas Tech, FAU, Toledo are set for officials moving forward for Cameron Miller. Indiana also in the thick of it for New Jersey pass rusher Logan Nagel. He gave Indiana high marks. My time in Bloomington was great. Really enjoyed being up there, spending time with the coaches and players. Indiana's development on D-line, what really excites me, the weight program and their coaching is proven to develop my position. That and the program Coach Signetti has built really feels like a family up there. Nagel has upcoming visits with North Carolina State and Rutgers. On 3 tabs him as the number 7 overall prospect in New Jersey. Things are picking up fast with the Hoosiers following an offer in February. That's a pretty high, dude, number 7. And again, Indiana just reaching out, and this is recruiting. This is not portal stuff, man. Charlotte, North Carolina independent safety Nick Reddish was at Indiana as the Hoosiers looked to make a move on Notre Dame and North Carolina as well as others. I had a great time hanging out with the players and recruits. Reddish said the most eye-appealing thing with Indiana is the opportunity to play early for me. Other top targets on campus included on 300 recruits Corey Amici and receiver Travis Johnson. I have a great relationship with the running backs coach, and they have a great atmosphere and culture, Amarchi said. D-line commit back at Indiana. This weekend, visitor already committed to Indiana was defensive lineman Rodney White. He loved it. So Indiana just doing a tremendous job on the recruiting side. This is not portal, like I said. These are recruits, man. And you can imagine when it comes to football and the numbers that we're talking here, because you've got 85, and I don't know exactly what number Indiana is going to be at, but you've got at least 85 scholarship players, man, all these different positions, and you're courting all of them. This is not a 12, 13 team basketball team. Shoot, that doesn't even fill up one position group on a football field. So a lot to manage, a lot of kids to manage, a lot of recruitment to manage. Think of the organization that it takes on the football side of things. That's football is such a massively bigger undertaking. And that's why part of the reasons why football coaches make more money, but you're always hearing about football coaches being in. They're the ones that's in at 5 a.m. Why is that? Curious. Just a thought. But no question there. Doing a great job on that recruiting side. So Indiana also, basketball has extended a scholarship offer to a top 26 5-star prospect, Caleb Gaskins of Columbus, Florida, and in Florida, of course. Sig is a logistics master. Yeah, I don't know about that comment there. Sig and staff working hard on getting more stuff. Yes, sir. Absolutely they are. And Gaskins is ranked number 11 overall prospect in the On3 industry rankings and the number 4 small forward. Gaskins played alongside 5-star forward Cameron Boozer and top 20 guard Caden Boozer on Columbus High School this year, which won the Chipotle Nationals. Yeah, I saw them play. As a matter of fact, I believe they played against Montverde and Trent Sisley's team when we were up there. Gaskins is ranked the number 11 overall prospect on the under 3. And I tell you what, that reminds me that Darren DeVries was there at that game. So he watched him play. He wasn't there just watching Trent Sisley. And I kind of knew that already because he stayed for the next game. But that was the last day of live recruiting, by the way. I think it ended at midnight that day that you had to stop. You could not go out anymore. But he was there right up through that last game, and he watched Caleb Gaskins play. This is the second 2026 offer that the new Indiana staff has given out following top 25 player Davian Atkins last week. Caleb Gaskins, who plays for the Knight Riders Elite on the Nike EYB circuit, is averaging 18 points, nearly 10 rebounds, and almost 2 assists per game through one session. He has 2 double-doubles in 3 games. He's a 6'7" forward. Gaskins is very physical wing. Man, there's no doubt that Darren DeVries loves these 6'7", 6'8" wings. I mean, this is going to be the heart of what he does. Because there are a ton on this roster already. And here's yet another offer. So you can see the offense is going to be built around guys that are those that can step out, knock it down, step in, hopefully, and do something, move with the ball. But it's going to be very interesting to watch this. Gaskin holds offers from Auburn, Michigan, Alabama, Ole Miss, Baylor, Texas, Villanova, and several others. The school play style has to fit my game too, Gaskins told On3 earlier this year. I'm comfortable playing in a 5-out offense. Lots of movement where I have the ball in my hands, but moving off ball too, playing in an offense with motion, but also get up shots. So it sounds like he's kind of describing a Darren DeVries style offense, which we expect it to be. Well, no, I don't think he is with 6'8" centers. He's got a 6'10" guy there, Brian, in Reed. But yeah, they're still, I think that they want another big. They just haven't landed the right one. They see that shows you, and I'm fine with the fact that while it looks like Indiana needs, well, it doesn't look like they need another big, but they're not just going to add one just to add one. If they don't get the right one, if they don't get the guy that they want or a guy that they want, he's not going to just go grab somebody. It has to be someone who fits in every way, who fits athletically, who fits in it mentally, who fits in what that they're trying to accomplish. So, but the transfer portal's got a lot of guys in it yet, so we'll see how that ends up. I think that at the end of the day, we'll talk to Alec about that too, as I know that last I heard, they're still holding out hope on Federico, but mainly hoping that his price comes down. Waiting for the bargain players. But maybe that's the truth. Maybe, he's holding out for so much money that no one's biting yet. And that's apparently what the issue is. We'll find out. We'll talk to Alec about all that. Yeah, John says the stuff, the fit. Yeah, all of that, all the stuff has got to fit. We've got to, let's see. It's time to take a break. Hope your day is going well. We're almost into spring, man. I mean, we're there, but the temperatures are going to almost get there. I think they're going to start getting there today. Today is like the first day of moving on from this just can't get out of shake the winter doldrums. Going to change the day. Lots more coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Back with it right after this.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. I hope you're doing well. Getting ready for this spring to start to cut loose a little bit, man. It's time to warm up. It is time to warm up. Man, I think that they're having a wing discussion over here on in the comments side of things. After what seems like a timeline longer than the major highway construction project, we're starting to get a timeline on a potential NCAA ruling stemming from the Michigan advanced scouting sign stealing allegations. Did see that Sharon Moore is going to be suspended for some games, but 2-game suspension. But if that's at the beginning of the season, that's pointless. That is absolutely worthless. They're playing. I haven't looked at their schedule, but I don't want to assume that they're playing no one. But since it's at the beginning of the season, I think it should be conference games. If you're going to suspend them, make it something that matters. For starters, news broke today or yesterday that via ESPN's Pete Thamel and Dan Wetzel that Michigan will be self-imposing a 2-game suspension for head coach Sharon Moore because of his involvement in the ordeal. He deleted 52 text messages between himself and Stallions on the day the news of the allegations dropped, and was on staff during the timeline of the alleged cheating took place, which meant he was a part of the cheating. Well, they won't say that. I'll say it. On the heels of that, Pat Forty of Sports Illustrated has cited sources that the hearing between Michigan and the NCAA's Committee on Infractions is set to take place on June 6th and 7th. A quick look at the calendar tells us that's just about a month away, so things should move quickly after that. In fact, we may even expect to hear a final ruling and any further sanctions for the Wolverines before the start of the 2025 season. For those counting, the season begins in less than 4 months. You're crazy. But Big Ten football media days, 2.5 months away. Nuts. It is crazy. It'll be here before you know it. So hopefully we can finally put this thing to bed, but they're not going to get, I just can't imagine Michigan getting their just desserts on that. We'll find out whether or not Michigan is going to receive any significant penalties from college athletics governing body, or if the NCAA will simply be a paper tiger, declawed and defanged
for the whole world to see. If one thing is clear to anyone outside of Ann Arbor, the language the NCAA has used thus far should at least point to an effort to lay out some fairly significant sanctions and or penalties. We just don't know what yet. We also don't know if and what the NCAA will be able to do if this thing ends up in a messy court battle, which I guarantee you, if the sanctions are heavy, it will be just that. And the sanctions should be heavy. That was one of the worst, most blatant cheating scandals ever. I mean, paying players is one thing, but this is cheating beyond that. This is guttural cheating to the nth degree. And acting like people didn't know about it. Yeah. Well, let me delete all this. I don't know anything, but let me delete all this. So, let's see. I'm not a betting man, but if I were, I would put money down on a self-imposed 2-game suspension, falling way short of what Michigan will have to deal with, especially since it sure looks like a cherry-picked 2 games with little meaning. Exactly. That's my point. They're going to pick out these 2 non-con games that don't mean jack, so it doesn't mean anything. Hopefully someone starts talking on this and we get some pre-hearing juicy nuggets before early June, but if not, we'll have more when the NCAA comes out of the witness protectus program to render a verdict. It's going to be wild to follow. Michigan, recent national champion, one of the biggest programs names in all of college football, and the NCAA have been proven to be toothless for so long. Can they finally stand up and do some? Do they have the wherewithal to make it through this? I just don't. I don't have any faith in the NCAA doing anything. And if any program needs to be punished, it's Michigan for this. But we've seen them all get away with it. Basketball has been as bad, if not worse. Duke, Kansas. I mean, it became a joke. The NCAA has done nothing, not been able to do anything, not been able to make anything stick. Cheryl Sizemore out there on the comments line. Make sure if you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore. She is the absolute best. And I mean that. Goes out of her way, does the extra things, goes the extra mile. You will have no one that will do more for you. Alec Lasley jumping on with us real quick. If I can get him spread out there. Hey, brother, how's it going?
Good morning. How are you doing?
Oh, just about to finish this segment up and we'll jump into another one. But we're just talking about football, a lot of football news going on. And Michigan, whether or not they're going to get sanctioned for
the self-imposed 2-game suspension that they got to pick. Weeks 3 and 4.
Who are they going to play? Akron and Toledo in those games?
It is a mid-major, and then I do think they play Nebraska, but it's they're not playing Oklahoma. They're not. It's the 2 lesser of the first 4 opponents there. So it's always interesting to see those self-imposed penalties when you get to pick the games that you're not playing in. So we're not coaching in.
Of course, that's what you're always going to do. I was talking about Indiana earlier, and man, the recruiting is just really going well for Indiana football. They are actively recruiting for the future, which is we don't see in everybody doing? Some people are still kind of resorting to the portal, leaning on the portal more. Look, Kurt Cignetti is not. He is mixing it, and you can see that because he's going after these guys. Recently landing one of the top recruit in the state of Indiana. Now talking to one of the other top recruits, and this was not the case before. Obviously, these top guys would go to Notre Dame or Michigan or Ohio State, and then if it was in state, Purdue was the first school in line. But Indiana has quickly made inroads within the state.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I think a large majority of that has to be contributed to obviously what they did last year, but more specifically, what this staff is truly doing culture-wise, right? I mean, it's a no kind of nonsense culture that they've built, and I think a lot of recruits do like that, and to a certain extent, right? It only matters if you're winning, when you're able to have that kind of personality as a head coach. So when you look at the majority of these kids that are now looking at Indiana, that are specifically taking visits, not only are they in-state guys, right? They're the top of the top in-state. They're the top in the Midwest, and more specifically, they're getting offers from the top of the Big Ten, other teams in the SEC, right? They're now starting to win out over the Tennessees. They're now starting to win out over the Wisconsins, the Penn States, the Michigan States, the Michigans, right? Where before that wasn't the case. And so you see what they've been able to do in such a short period of time. It's about getting the kids there. And so they were able to do that early on. Then it was able to show that, hey, what we're telling you is actually true. We're going to win. We're going to win at a high level, and we're going to play hard, and we're going to do it my way. And they saw that go to 11 wins and a college football playoff. And so who does not want to be part of that when you look at the kind of more specifically within this Midwestern region, guys who now are starting to, even if they were or were not, they're starting to say that they've been Indiana fans for a while. So now you're starting to bring back in the hometown kind of feel for it, and doesn't hurt when you have obviously a Purdue team that outside of this offseason, right, where now they're starting to gain a lot of momentum, at least through the transfer portal, what we saw that Indiana did last year. Purdue hasn't been the top of the echelon of the in-state schools that maybe they had been certain years under Jeff Brom. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the next kind of year or two, specifically with Purdue, to see if they start to pull some of these kids back in. But if Indiana keeps winning and they keep winning at this level, it's really not going to matter, because if you start to build that foundation, now we see what it's able to do from a recruiting perspective from the transfer portal as well. And now they're starting to be very selective, especially this spring, with who they wanted. They brought in, impact players. They only brought in 3 as of right now, but all 3 are expected to be, if not, very close to the starting lineup there. They're going to be very, very specific rotational pieces that are going to play a lot of snaps for Indiana. And those are, things that aren't always easy to come by, especially at this point in the spring window. But they did a phenomenal job, I think, kind of flying under the radar, getting very specific pieces and working really quickly in doing that as well.
Yeah, we'll pick this up on the other side. We've got to hit a break. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com on 3 with me now. Lots more coming up on the return.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more.
with a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music. You can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com on 3 with me. And earlier, Alec, I was talking about President Trump had met with Nick Saban and actually with Tommy Tuberville. Tommy Tuberville may be giving up his Senate seat to run for governor. And so all those guys have the president's ear in talking about NIL, both of which who are heavy SEC guys. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure that I think that someone who did Nick Saban was not exactly Mr. Clean. He may have ignored it, but it just seems disingenuous to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's even one of the national guys here at On 3 had an article out about kind of going a little bit deeper into the executive order that Donald Trump wanted for NIL, right? I mean, I think that this would create an entirely different problem and issue as if we're getting the national government involved in NIL. It's something that while we look at the NCAA not being able to do this in a proper way and really letting the floodgates open. I think you're going to be in for a major issue is if you're getting the national government to try to talk about different executive orders or different ways to get NIL down to the college level. I think we're probably going to see a lot of changes over the next 2 to 3 years with how a lot of this stuff is regulated, but it's going to have to come from a collegiate level first. I just don't think that there's going to be any way to really do that from a national, again, non-sports perspective. So we'll see what happens. But obviously he was down in Alabama over the weekend. I think he spoke at Alabama's graduation. So a lot of conversations happened with Nick Saban. I know they both. I think it was Thursday they talked. So I'm sure we'll start to hear even more stuff come out over the next couple of days about what those conversations specifically were like and kind of how detailed they were, right? But I just don't think that's the the path that the college level is going to be going down anytime soon.
Me either. I agree with you. On the basketball side of things, it has slowed down quite a bit. Indiana up to 11 players now, I think. Is that where
11.
we are? 11 players now, still needing a big, but it seems as if, and in conversations with you, they're kind of holding and seeing if they get the right guy. They're not going to take a guy just to take him, but if they can get the right guy, they will. But if they don't, it's going to leave them in kind of a precarious position.
Yeah, I mean, I think when Josh Harris committed, I think you, especially when obviously you had him on the show and you got to dive into a little bit about that recruitment. When I talked to him after he committed as well, it doesn't seem as though he's being brought in just to be a rotational piece. He seems to be, exactly what the skill set was that this coaching staff was looking for. Now, he's not the shot blocker that I think this team still is lacking, but from an offensive perspective, he has the athleticism, he has the versatility, and more importantly, he has the potential to really be a ceiling raiser for this front court. A guy who's obviously only played 1 year comes in with Reed Bailey, Sam Alexis, guys who have now played multiple years at the college level, guys who have been very effective in different roles. And then you throw in obviously Trent Sicily. So right, you're looking at a 4-man front court that still is lacking some of that rim presence, but isn't lacking the versatility and the athleticism that you really want from a Darren DeVries offense specifically, right? And I think a lot of fans are looking at this from a defensive perspective, right? Because you look at this team and it's vastly different the way that it's been built out than the last decade plus from an IU perspective. And it's a very offensive focused roster. And I think that's the way that you have to go in college nowadays. If you're a good coach and a good teacher, you can teach the defensive principles, but it's a lot more difficult, in my opinion, to coach pure offensive talent than it is defensive fundamentals, right? And so I think that's the big shift in the way that this coaching staff and specifically Darren DeVries is attacking the portal, attacking a lot of the recruits. You even look at the 2 recent 2026 offers that he put out over the last 4 days. Those are athletic, versatile, either 4 guys or 5 guys that have the ability to play all over the floor. And they're versatile in the way they play. And now you're starting to really get a sense for what his power forwards and what his centers want to do. But I think the Josh Harris move shows you that they're okay with where they're at front court wise. I think he's going to provide a lot more. I had a story about this yesterday, but a lot more pop. And Jamie Shaw was talking about this on the show last week as well. Provide a lot more pop from what you're typically seeing from the Indiana Fives. I think he's going to play the 5. He's a little bit undersized, but he has the length and the athleticism to match up with a lot of other power forwards and a lot of other 5s here in the Big Ten, especially now this upcoming year with the way some of these rosters are being built. And I think it's going to force defenses on the other end to try to match up with a very versatile offensive system that Indiana's never been able to do, right? Indiana's always been a reactionary offense and defensive adjustment team. Now they're going to be on the opposite end, and they're going to force a lot of teams to have to be the reactionary team. So I think this is going to be a way more offensive predicated team, and I think that's okay, right? Because Indiana's not been able to see what an offensive predicated team looks like for quite some time. I think you probably have to go back to probably the last time they won the Big Ten in 2016, maybe a little bit with Trace Jackson Davis and Jalen Hood-Schifino, the way they really were able to create a lot of mismatches. But there's few and far between of those offensive systems that created a lot of mismatches, and that's what you're going to see with this team. So, to kind of come back to the initial question there, what they're going to do with the final kind of couple spots here. Obviously, they're looking at Luke Goody potentially if he gets that waiver. We confirmed the news this weekend that Anthony Leal is applying for a 6-year. We'll see if that happens, right? That obviously doesn't do anything for the front court, either one of those guys necessarily. So I think you're probably looking at, let's just say Indiana gets one of those waivers approved, which it's still an uphill battle for both. But let's just say they get one approved, right? You're sitting at 12 scholarships. I think you may dip into the 2025 class, try to get a kind of a developmental center, a guy who is probably a more defensive oriented player, maybe a guy who can come in, play 2-3 minutes a game if needed, if there's foul trouble, but a guy who is not really expected to be a huge part of the front court, more so just a depth piece from that standpoint.
How surprising was it to see that Anthony Leal applying for this extra year waiver? I was pretty surprised. I mean, and the first thing I thought, could he become the first player in the history of Indiana University to go through senior day 3 times?
Yep. It's yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Again, we see all these guys nowadays, especially this year, with no eligibility, going in the transfer portal, with no eligibility, trying to fight for another waiver. It's a vastly different scenario than what Luke Goody is in, because Luke Goody was injured for again the majority of that sophomore season that he had, and he's trying to get that back. Versus Anthony Leal, who just hasn't. I think he's only played 20 games 2 years out of his 5, right? So none of that had to do with significant injury holding him back per se. So it'll be interesting. I think if the NCAA does grant him another year, that's going to open up the floodgates for this to continue to happen. Same as it would be if another kid who probably doesn't have the legitimate case for an extra year gets eligibility, we're going to see a whole other issue from the NCAA. But again, we're talking to some people, right? I mean, it's why not try? If you want to come back and you want to you have the coach who wants you to come back and you have the roster space, right? Why not try? Because you never know what's going to happen with the NCAA, and that's the unfortunate part. But it's where we're at today. So I think that's more of, let's do it. Let's see what happens, and if it works, great. If not, at least we kind of tried.
And the next question, though, is for both Leal and Goody. There's not a lot of room at their position. I mean, that's where they are heavy at, is guard and wings.
Yeah, and I think that's when you look at the one guy who probably fits this roster a little bit better is Luke Goody, with his ability to kind of play that hybrid 4-man. But then again, right, Anthony Leal has played almost every single position, I think, throughout his Indiana career, and he's a very true culture setting guy. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of these if they do get an extra year to bring him back, right? Because of their love for Bloomington, their love for this program, and their ability to really, connect a lot of these newcomers to that history, to that brand, to what it means to play for an Indiana team. And so I think from that sense, right, there probably will do way more better in that area than actually producing on the floor. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking at from a fit and a actual effectiveness, productivity type of standpoint, you're definitely looking at Luke Goody, who's one who fits almost ideally the perfect skill set for what Darren DeVries wants, right? 6'8" type of shooter, hard nosed player who can play on both ends. A physical type player, guy who plays with a lot of emotion as well. A guy who really fits into what Darren DeVries wants. So I think from that standpoint, he probably fits just a little bit better with how this roster is currently constructed as of May 6th at this point.
And with Luke being on the last team, and of course, and there was a lot of chatter at the end talking about fans and this, that, and the other thing. Is it a fair, do you think, of him coming into this new team and bringing some of that with him?
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the more vocal. Him and Anthony Leal, right, have been two of the more vocal players, I think, from even a standoffish perspective with the fan base over the last couple of years. They both have had a lot of great things to say about the fan base though as well. But I think the biggest thing is Luke Goody, that is just absolutely, I think you saw it last year, loves this university, loves the history of it, and is just a true basketball player who wants to compete, and he doesn't know when to turn maybe some of that competitive edge off. And I think right, last year was just a totally different scenario where you have the high expectations coming into the year, you have the ups and the downs early in the season, and then you have obviously the major downfall that led to obviously Mike Woodson leaving and going in through a new coaching search mid-year. So I think there were just a lot of different pillars that Luke Goody kind of had to navigate through. But it being his first year, I think the fan base took that a little bit differently than they would have if Anthony Leal was saying it, which I think they did when he started to say it. I think that there was just so much pent up energy from a lot of the players last year that it was difficult to navigate. And so I think that's what kind of led to maybe some of the comments. But at the end of the day, I'd rather If I'm a coach, I'd rather a player go out and say that than not say anything. So from that perspective, I think Luke Goody's an all-time teammate and an all-time guy that you probably any coach around the country would take 100 times over to have on his roster.
Yeah, he's been known as a really, really good teammate. I mean, a guy that is always coaching from the sidelines or whatever. But as far as playing on this roster, since this roster is predicated on guard play and whatnot, it just would seem like he's, with his lack of shooting, lack of scoring, lack of free throw shooting, that he would find it hard to find some minutes.
Anthony Leal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, I have a hard time imagining him winning this appeal, right? It just doesn't make, from my perspective, looking at what he's done throughout the 5 years, right? You don't see a lot of these cases won, but again, who knows what the NCAA is going to do? But yeah, let's just say he were to get the waiver and come back, it's going to be tough to see where he fits in, but he's also a guy that maybe at this point he knows that he's not going to specifically be the guy on this team in terms of starting the amount of times that he started last year and being kind of a significant role player, because you just see the talent and the skill sets around him, and what Darren DeVries wants from an offense specifically. Anthony Leal just doesn't quite have that playmaking skill set from a defensive side and a leadership side. 100%. He fits into almost any roster again, like Luke Goody would. But it's more so the offensive perspective that, again, this team is going with. And if you're going to put him onto the floor, you're going to take away a much more versatile skill set that I think benefits this team long term. From that side of things, I think the only area that you probably see him playing is that physical kind of 4-man where you have 4 guards out on the floor and he's playing limited minutes in that scenario. But at the end of the day, right, I think this has been the conversation that numerous people have had for Anthony Leal now 5 years, and somehow he always makes his way into the lineup. Somehow he always makes his way into the closing lineups as well. He's a guy that just makes smart plays. So it's a win-win in my opinion, no matter what. If you get any of these guys back, if you don't, right, I think the roster is set up in a very good way moving forward. And if you just happen to get Luke Goody or Anthony Leal back, I think you're going to be set up just even better from that leadership and culture perspective.
What's up next for you at thehoosier.com? I know you got all kinds of things going on over there.
Yeah, so obviously gotta look at some of the new offers that have been extended over the last week here. We have some football stuff coming up with some commitments to potentially keep an eye on from the 2026 class from an Indiana perspective. Some big time visits that happened this past weekend that we're getting some good intel and stories up on from where Indiana stands and really taking over some of those recruitments. So some really good stuff that it's already on the site, coming up in the next probably 2 days, I would say.
Make sure you are a subscriber to thehoosier.com. They still have the special $1 for the first month, 50% off first year. Man, getting all those breaking stories from the national side as well as the inside information as well. Alec Lasley, thank you, my friend.
I appreciate it. Have a good one.
You betcha. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. We've got more coming up. Sam King from the Lafayette Journal. Up next, after these messages.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC. Local lives here.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday, joined now by Sam King from the Lafayette Journal and Courier, covering Purdue. Man, surprisingly, Purdue football is making some inroads, and I say surprisingly only because of the season that they're coming off of, and just kind of hard to do that, but it seemed like, man, they were pulling in some good players right off the bat.
Yeah, it's been a lot of change just in the last few weeks since the spring season ended, for sure. And that's one thing new coach Barry Odom said after he evaluated some of these players in the spring. He's probably like, okay, so-and-so doesn't fit our scheme. Or, I think he's been brutally honest, kind of from the Matt Painter mold of he's going to tell you the truth and not beat around the bush. And some of these players, I'm sure he said, listen, if you want to play, you're going to have to go elsewhere. And the staff has gone out and grabbed some players in needed positions to upgrade. Now, after the fall season, when Purdue went 1-11 and had a coaching change, it did lose some of its best players, which kind of goes under the radar now because it's so far removed. But it looks like there is a talent upgrade in terms of what Purdue's been able to bring in as of late.
Yeah, it is. It's so hard when you have a season like they did to get it turned around. But I guess with the portal and the NIL era, it helps no matter what. And because you want to see this. I don't want to see terrible teams. I'd like to see everybody at least be, competitive, because that just changes everything. Although the sport has changed because we've seen so many teams that are now competitive. Indiana, for one, we saw what happened with them last year, but it's just not that. It's across the board and across the board in sports. Teams that usually aren't successful in certain sports have been able to find that. So that's one fun part I have enjoyed the heck out of. And you never know from year to year who it's going to be.
Yeah, last year was about the most miserable experience I've ever had covering college football, because it was every week 56-0, 66-7, 66-0. And there's not really a new storyline that you can find each week. It was kind of just beating a dead horse after every Saturday. And it got really repetitive and frustrating for the players who didn't want to talk about it, but that's the reality that was going on. And you're right. Everybody saw what Indiana did last year, just turning it around in 1 year with a coaching change. Now, I think that is an exception more than the rule, but it shows that teams can get competitive really quickly, especially in these power conferences where there's a lot of money. Really quickly, you can go from a 1-11 team to possibly competing for a bowl. Purdue's probably not in the conversation of college football playoff, even with the talents that have come in. But I think that it's a team that can be a lot more competitive this year for sure.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt Barry Odom has made a huge difference coming in from UNLV. I mean, it was almost an instantaneous difference of sorts. I'm not even there, and I could feel a difference in that program. What is it that he did so quickly to at least change the
when you're coming off of a season like that, like you said, it is miserable. There's nothing you can do. It's just a feeling of dread. But it was like that. I'm not going to say it was wiped away because I'm not there and dealing with those fans, but it seems like he sure made it a lot better quickly.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was Purdue hired a head coach who has head coaching experience versus, nothing against Ryan Walters, but a defensive coordinator at a couple places, Missouri, Illinois, and had never been a head coach. And typically there's a path to becoming a head coach where you go to a MAC level or an FCS level school and have success and work your way up. And I think Purdue kind of hot-shotted a big name coordinator before maybe he was ready. And Barry Odom's been at Missouri as a head coach, been at UNLV as a head coach, and had success at both places. And it just kind of brought in a program stability from the get-go. He knew what he wanted in a staff. He knew what he wanted in a program and what kind of players he needed to target to get there. And also bringing a whole lot of transfers from UNLV helps. It's very much what Curt Cignetti did with James Madison, was brought a lot of guys who had succeeded at a lower level and said, hey, come to the Big Ten and see if you can get it done. And sure enough, a lot of those players panned out for Indiana. So I know Barry Odom is hoping to have similar results with a lot of the guys that he brought from Las Vegas.
Yeah, and I know they landed a top wide receiver early on that was turned some heads as well.
Yeah, they definitely targeted receivers, first of all, back in the fall. And some of those players did not pan out throughout the spring that they thought. One would be Nathan Leacock coming from Tennessee. And they're like, well, he was at Tennessee where they were just in the college football playoff. And sure enough, that guy lasted 3 months and he's out of here. But one name at receiver particularly, actually maybe two, Corey Smith is a guy from Brownsburg, was at Tulsa and had a successful freshman season. And Nitro Tuggle from Georgia, who is up in the South Bend area, and he's coming back home and didn't play a lot at Georgia, but he played at Georgia as a true freshman, which is not easy to do. So I think if those two guys can come in and being Indiana guys, which is kind of the foothold that Purdue wants to have in terms of high school recruiting, you're just getting them a year later and maybe somewhat more polished because they have a year of college. That's a good base to start from at the receiver position.
I'm looking at the schedule, and again, not knowing what Purdue is going to be like, it doesn't look nearly as bad as it did last year as far as toughness, although it is still tough simply starting out because you've got Notre Dame as one of the non-con games. That does not help at all. It takes away a win. You have two other non-cons that Purdue should be able to handle, but they've got Northwestern, Minnesota on the schedule, Northwestern on the schedule, Rutgers, and Washington. That I don't know how far they change, but those could potentially be winning games. And if they were, man, if I were a Purdue fan, and an optimistic one, I'm like, the top end, I could see 6-6.
Yeah, there is a path to a bowl game for sure. The schedule last year did no favors to Purdue, starting out with Indiana State. Then you have a week off, and then you go to Notre Dame coming off a loss to Northern Illinois, which is the worst time probably to play that team, and it showed. And I think all the confidence was just shot 2 games into the season after getting beat 66-7 by obviously a very good team that went to the championship game, but it was kind of all downhill from there. And then because of that, I think the games where Purdue had a chance, Northwestern, at Michigan State, it couldn't make the winning plays because it had become so accustomed to just losing games. And if you can start off this year 2-0 like Purdue should against Ball State and against Southern Illinois, I believe, you have a little bit more confidence going into that Notre Dame game. And then when you get into Big Ten play, you have a feeling of having won a couple games. And by that point, you're, played several games together with all these transfers coming in. And you should be able to kind of hit the ground running once conference season starts versus last year. It was just, it felt like it was a small snowball starting out, and it just became an avalanche by the end of the season.
Yeah, they opened the season with those 2 non-con games, Ball State and Southern Illinois, but then they go to, back into the 1980s glory days by playing USC and Notre Dame back-to-back. So they're playing two juggernauts there back-to-back, and that's going to be difficult. Although you get USC at home, they've got to go on the road to take on the Fighting Irish.
Yeah, and Purdue's new offensive coordinator was previously the offensive coordinator at USC, so they will have some intel on that program and what Lincoln Riley does there. But in college football, every team is different every single year now. So it's not like, what they've got in the pipeline, or, these guys were freshmen last year who could step up and play well. But I think there is an opportunity there where if you have some confidence and you have USC at home, I'm not saying Purdue's going to win that game, but even having a great showing against a program of that magnitude probably gets the fans on your side for the long haul. And that's what Purdue needs right now, because 2 years ago, you were selling a lot of fans coming off of a Big Ten championship game appearance with a new head coach. And it took 2 years for a lot of those people to jump off the bandwagon. And then you basically just had the loyal fans sticking around late in the season. Now you're selling them on hope again with a new head coach. And if you start to fall off, it's not going to be long, because there's people that are kind of right now already wishing it was basketball season.
Yeah, well, don't worry. The Indiana fans have dealt with that for decades upon decades, and that finally changed overnight, which is still mesmerizing to try to wrap your hands around. But it did, and it can in this era. And who knows, Barry Odom may be that guy at the right place at the right time. But definitely changes have been made. But Purdue now has to come back into a season after going through what they did last year. How much of the team is actually left over?
In terms of key players, not a lot. But the big thing that happened in the portal, and this is indicative of what college football is in 2025, Ryan Brown, who started a couple games at quarterback last year, transfers. Purdue got a quarterback from Arkansas in the portal, and when that happened, Ryan Brown transferred to North Carolina and was mesmerized, kind of like, hey, Bill Belichick, I'm going to get first class understanding of how to play football, especially at the quarterback position, from a guy who had Tom Brady in his back pocket for all those Super Bowls. And he goes out to Chapel Hill, plays 3 months in North Carolina, goes through the spring season, and transfers back to Purdue. But now he does so with all the knowledge he's learned from Bill Belichick. But I think that was kind of a key get. Even if Ryan Brown doesn't end up being the starting quarterback, you brought back a guy who was here before from the previous regime, who has starting experience, who's kind of a leader, and can challenge a quarterback group that, quite frankly, through the spring, nobody separated themselves, which maybe made it easier for him to come back and say, okay, it's still an open competition, and I can go in there and earn that job.
On Purdue's schedule, of course, you've got Ohio State. I'm going to throw Indiana in there just because they're expected to have a good season as well. But you've got Ohio State and Michigan, back-to-back games. That comes in November. That's how they start November off. Then you go to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and come back home for Ohio State. But both of those games should be brutal fistfights.
Yeah, it did not go well last year at Ohio State, as you would expect, the national champions against a one-win team. But I felt like Purdue competed early on there. For whatever reason, Purdue just has more success than anybody in the Big Ten against Ohio State historically. One of the things that makes no sense in the last 25 years of college football. But I think there's an allure when you play a program of that nature, or Michigan. You want to get up and play your best because there's a lot more eyeballs on you that week. And a couple of years ago, I felt Purdue played during a 4-win season, played pretty well at Michigan, despite losing by 20-something points. I thought it was one of Purdue's better performances of that season, and Michigan goes on and wins the national championship. So on paper, it looks like those teams should blow out Purdue, and in all likelihood, they might. But I think those are games that Purdue really gets up for and says, okay, if we're legit, this is where we've got to show it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The football season, it won't be here. It seems like it's forever away, but we're 2.5 months away from Big Ten football media days in Las Vegas. So it will sneak up on us quicker than and be here. But I'm ready, man. Everybody's ready for football season. I'm ready for just to get back to it. Also, basketball in the Big Ten will be tough again. Purdue, and this is the opposite. They go from being potentially the worst team in a sport to the number one team in the sport, as I've seen a couple of people place them at number one in the country in the preseason.
I don't buy it. And this has nothing to do with Purdue, but any of that preseason crap. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Go back to Kansas last year being picked number 1 and they stunk. But Purdue obviously is going to be a good team. There's no doubt about that. I don't think that they can win a national championship because they don't have the magic elixir of having a first-round NBA draft pick on their roster.
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of people that say that now. We don't know what Omer Mayer is going to become, the kid from Israel who just signed. Braden Smith is a guy who Matt Painter thinks is an NBA player, but he's not going to go be an NBA All-Star or, a lottery pick or anything like that. But getting a guy like that to come back for a 4th year, especially in this day and age where there's all kinds of crazy dollar figures being thrown at people who go out and become the nation's best point guard and an All-American and things of that sort. Keeping that nucleus together was huge. Now, I know Purdue lost Miles Colvin. I know Purdue lost Cam Heide, Will Berg, and Brian Waddell. A couple of those guys were going to be really good role players. A couple weren't going to play a lot. But you kept the nucleus together, and then you add Oscar Clough from South Dakota State, which was a huge get. When you saw what Purdue's weakness was last year, it was really rim protection defensively. Really needed another guy at the 5 who could help Trey Coffin-Wren. Now you have a flexibility to play both those guys at that position. You can move Trey Coffin-Wren back to the 4 where he played when Zach Edey was there. It's a really dangerous offensive lineup. Defensively, we'll see. But I think that Purdue is definitely a team that tasted that Final Four a couple of years ago. And now Matt Painter sees, he has 3 seniors coming back who were starters on that team who probably achieved all it was going to achieve this year, getting into the Sweet 16 and getting beat on a last-second shot against Houston. And he said, if you're ever going to go for it, Matt Painter is not a guy that likes to dip his toe into the portal or, play that kind of game. But I think he said, if you're going to go for it, this is the year to go for it, where Purdue has 3 seniors, a couple probably All-Americans and one of the best shooters in the country in Fletcher Lawyer. And that's why he went out and grabbed the guys that he did that were, one's a role piece, one's a need. And then Omer Mayer, if you can get him, you go out and get a guy like that. So now you really have 2 ball handling point guards to go with everything that's coming back.
They have something that I think is the last, and that is the last of a group like Fletcher Lawyer, Braden Smith, and Trey Coffin-Wren to play their entire career together. I don't know that we ever see that again in this day and age, and it is phenomenal, and it does give a team a lot of continuity, especially when they're starters and major contributors. So that is definitely a leg up on other teams, and the fact that they have played together so long. Then you look at like a team like Indiana, who they're going to have a team that nobody has played together for a minute. So college basketball has become a weird deal. It's going to be interesting to see who does what in the Big Ten. Michigan obviously was great last year, had just a couple of pieces. Boy, Dusty went out and filled those spots pretty quickly and didn't mess around. Boom, Michigan's going to be tough. I expect Michigan State, just because Tom Izzo, to be good. Illinois, Landis Stojakovic, and I don't know, whatever else he's got. He's a magician. He just always pulls stuff out of the hat and has guys. He lost 2 first rounders off of his team last year. So UCLA will probably be back. So I don't know. What is the Big Ten looking like to you, do you think?
It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun from a fan standpoint. If you're a coach or a player preparing for it, it's probably going to be pretty brutal for, the stretch of January through March. But for those of us that are sitting back and watching, the league champion's probably going to have 4 or 5 losses at least. It's going to be pretty competitive. And I think it's a situation kind of like this year where a lot of teams will get into the NCAA tournament and all be better off for having gone through the grind of the Big Ten season.
Yeah, Illinois, I forgot. They landed Ivicic's brother as well. So
yes.
He's going very European.
A lot of Europeans coming through in recent years.
Yeah, a lot of European. As a matter of fact, I had that conversation with somebody. He has maybe more than that. Petrovic, Merkovic, Ivicic, and Ivicic. Really? The Balkan 5, Philip says. So he's got Stojakovic, Petrovic,
I can't even pronounce all those names. There we go. Stojakovic, Petrovic, Merkovic, Ivicic, and Ivicic. The Balkan Five. Yeah, that's crazy. But, man, it's an advantage. Those guys it's like they play pro ball before they play college ball.
Yeah, and that's what Purdue's getting in Omer Mayer, too, a guy who was playing, even as an 18-year-old, playing with grown men. And you hope that benefits you, certainly with Kasparis Yakis. I can't even say his last name from Illinois.
Yakachonis.
Yeah. He was a very good player, but he was older and he had played pro ball for an extended period of time. I think that is an advantage in the way college basketball works right now. That's it's all within the rules. So props to Coach Underwood for, he's really taken advantage of it more than most. But you're right. You get these guys who have been playing against older players since they were, teenagers, like 13, 14 years old on up. You would think that's a benefit. And then you get some of these guys who just know each other from having gone through the circles over there. Even the European countries that aren't attached to each other, it's all in close proximity. It's easy to get around a lot of those places.
Oh yeah, just jump on a train. You'll be in another country in about 10 minutes, man.
Right.
It's nuts. But so the Big Ten is looking. I think it was fun this year because it looked like it was this team. It looked like it was this team. Purdue started out, and then Michigan kind of came out of nowhere. And then Michigan State, who we thought, then they rose, and Illinois and UCLA, even USC, who stunk at the beginning of the year. They started rising at the end of the year. So, man, you never can tell. And then Indiana, of course, is going to be an entirely new team, an entirely different team style, closer to what Purdue is right now with just good guards, good shooting guards. They don't have well, I know that they have some bigs on the bench. That's not a big part of what they're doing at the moment, which is kind of unusual for Matt Painter, with Trey Kaufman-Renn being his guy in the middle. That's probably going to be similar to something we see from Indiana. So that could be very interesting.
Yeah, very much so. And Indiana's a team last year who, correctly, I guess I predicted would have a factor in who won the Big Ten, but wasn't going to compete to win the Big Ten. And Indiana was, I thought, with the talent it had, they could beat anybody last year. And I think that's going to be another situation this year where you're going to say, like, man, on any given night, the Hoosiers can go out and mop the floor with anybody. We saw them do it against Purdue last season. And I think that, for IU fans, the silver lining is this team is probably going to compete for an NCAA tournament spot. I know the team this year had a chance to get in there and drop the ball kind of in the Big Ten tournament, but I'd expect Indiana to be in the mix all season long this year. And it's good. It's great for college basketball. It's great for the Big Ten when Indiana is a team on that, spectrum. And, Purdue fans probably don't want to hear that and say, just keep those guys out of here forever. But I think, when you have a team with 5 national championships, it's always good when that team is relevant.
And what's fun has been to see that the IU Purdue games, no matter what, they have still been great games, fun games. We weren't getting these 30-point blowouts. It was still competitive, getting after it, and that's going to continue. A couple of the guys that I've talked to, they know that Purdue is the rival. That's the thing that you worry about with all of these transfers coming in, and it's going to happen to Purdue at some point. I truly believe that Matt Painter he can continue to do what he's doing for a while, but at some point, I think it will just get to a situation where it's just not realistic to expect to have guys for 4 years anymore.
Yeah, and he said as much when Purdue was making its run to the national championship game a year ago. And I talked to him about, you kind of got this old school style where you still get high school kids, keep them for 4 years, keep groups together, and just really build on continuity. And then at that time, he had added Lance Jones, who was just a need in one spot. And he's like, yeah, then you go out and get the one guy to fill a role you need. But he said, it's going to bite me in the butt at some point if we keep doing this. And maybe we've seen him stray away a little bit this year. He's still getting guys that seem like Purdue fits in terms of the transfer guys he brought in. But at some point, especially as money gets the money gets higher and higher, and the number of dollar figures just get ridiculous, and to the point where we're keeping guys out of the NBA because they want to come back and play in college where they're worth more money. It's going to be you're going to have to shift a little bit to how you do things at some point. But I think Matt Painter has done a great job, better than most of the veteran coaches at adapting to that, and understanding that, okay, this is how it works now. This is how I'm going to have to operate. It's not like some of these coaches who get out early, Jay Wright at Villanova, for example, Tony Bennett at Virginia, that we're just like, I don't want to deal with the portal stuff and the NIL, and I'm not going to do it. I think Matt Painter has done a good job adjusting kind of on the fly to that.
Tom Izzo, as much as anybody. I'm
right.
like,
Yeah.
wow.
Me too.
It's crazy to see. Usually a guy that has been along. I mean, Matt Painter's very experienced, obviously, but Tom Izzo is even more so than him. And usually those guys fight that stuff. And man, he just dealt with it and went right along. What's up next for you, man?
Probably taking some time off at some point once all this spring transfer portal football stuff comes to an end. Purdue's still got some guys visiting, trying to add a couple more pieces. But then it'll be kind of exciting to see the first inklings of what this basketball team looks like together on the court this summer. Just going through some practices. That's what I'm most interested in at the moment.
Now, do you guys get to go to any practices?
There's a few that we go to during the summer, usually the first one, and they're pretty open. I've heard that Indiana doesn't operate, or previously hadn't operated under the same model. There's no going there and watching practice and pulling aside guys. It's much different at Purdue, where it's very relaxed. The guys come over and talk to you when they're shooting free throws after practice.
That's how it has always been in real life media. It's been that way. That's how it's always been. Not here. It's locked down.
Yeah, and very much the opposite. Purdue's very open. You can take guys off to the side and ask them whatever. There's nobody looking over your shoulder and saying, "Hey, don't make sure you don't ask about the this comment from this coach or whatever." It's now if they say something that the coaching staff doesn't like, I'm sure they get lectured about it. But it's very much open and trusting that these are adults and they can go out and talk to the media and not put our program on blast.
Boy, that must be nice. That's the old days here, but appreciate you, brother. We'll look forward to doing it again soon and keeping up with what's going on. Make sure if you're a Purdue fan, you're giving Sam a follow at the Journal and Courier and on social media as well. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
You bet. Sam King joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We've got a little more coming up. Back with it on the other side. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Glad to have you along for the ride. Jim Coyle with you as always. Little news for the TBT. The Assembly Ball team will be returning for the 2025 edition of the TBT, and you're going to have a couple of big names. Further released today, two huge former Indiana basketball guards were announced as the first two members of those two players being Yogi Ferrell and James Blackman Jr. How about them apples? Ferrell competed last year for Assembly Ball, while this will be Blackman Jr.'s first season participating. More names are expected to be announced in the coming months. But Assembly Ball, the Indiana alumni team hosting the basketball tournament. Oh, they're hosting? Oh, they're hosting the regional alongside All Good Dogs with Butler alumni at the Hinkle Fieldhouse from July 19th through the 22nd. Today announced the roster additions of Yogi and James Blackman Jr. Ferrell and Blackman Jr. joined Assembly Ball as the first two roster commitments. Additional players will be announced in the coming weeks. Ferrell returns to TBT for the second consecutive summer, leading Assembly Ball to a regional championship appearance last season with 20 points per game. Yogi was a four-year starter at Indiana from 2012 to 2016, setting program records for both career assists at 633 and starts 137. He made an immediate impact as a freshman, earning all Big Ten honors while helping lead the Hoosiers to a number one seed in the NCAA tournament. Over his final three seasons, Ferrell averaged 17 points per game and was named first team All Big Ten in both his junior and senior years. As a senior, he also earned first team All Wooden All-American honors. After leaving Indiana, Ferrell played 5 seasons in the NBA, playing for the Brooklyn Nets, Mavericks, Sacramento Kings, Cleveland Cavaliers, and Los Angeles Clippers. Ferrell's most productive NBA campaign came in the 2017-18 season, where he appeared in all 82 games for the Dallas Mavericks, averaging 10 points and 2.5 assists per game. He played for multiple teams across Europe and Asia since leaving the NBA, currently playing for Budućnost in Montenegro. James Blackman Jr. is making his TBT debut for Assembly Ball. Blackman Jr. made a significant impact during his 3 seasons at Indiana, which were 2014 to 2017. He appeared in 76 games for the Hoosiers. He was a McDonald's All-American and a 5-star recruit. He delivered a standout freshman campaign, averaging 15 points per game, setting an Indiana freshman record with 77 three-pointers made. Despite a sophomore season shortened by injury, he returned as a junior to post a team best 17 points per game while shooting 43% from three-point range. 43% on the kind of volume he shot. That's what Indiana has been missing. Blackman Jr. decided to forego his senior season and declared for the NBA draft in 2017. Signed with the 76ers as an undrafted free agent in the summer, going on to spend multiple years in the NBA G League. He has since played professionally in Italy and Turkey. The winner of the Indianapolis Regional will advance to TBT's quarterfinals on July 28th. The semifinals will be held on July 31st, and TBT's $1 million championship winner take all will be played on August 3rd. So a little later on in the summer. For the first time, TBT will give each host team the opportunity to have home court advantage for the quarterfinals and semifinals and the $1 million championship game. Should two regionals hosts face off, the tiebreaker will be determined by which host sells 4,000 tickets the most. How about that? Well, that's no dumb idea by the organizers. Tickets go on sale to the general public May 6th and are available for purchase at tbthoops.com/tickets. That is tbthoops.com/tickets. /tickets. Or you could just go to tbthoops.com. Get you all the info you want. So you got that going for you. Little summer basketball. Looking forward to that. Yeah, the TBT, always a fun thing. So great to see. That's a hell of a start for that Indiana team. Man, they may be adding a few more top flight players. That's something. Got some shooters, big time pro shooters, guys that have been playing, used to shooting the long ball. It's exactly what they need. It's going to be interesting to see how the rest of that team comes together. Indiana baseball freshman Jake Hanley has been named Big Ten Freshman of the Week for the second time this season. He becomes the first player in the league to earn multiple Freshman of the Week honors in 2025. Just the second Hoosier in the past 2 seasons to do so. Honor comes after a monster week at the plate for Hanley. He helped lead Indiana to a perfect 4-0 record. He hit .467, slugged 3 home runs, drove in 9 runs, scored 6 times. His biggest performance came Wednesday against Evansville. He went 4 for 5 with 2 homers and 5 RBIs in a dominant 14-6 victory. Yeah, that's a good day at the office there, man. Speaking of a good day at the office, it's always a good day at the office when I'm here with you all, and greatly appreciate you. Looking forward to being back to do this again tomorrow. A little more fuller lineup. Mike DeCourcy ended up being on vacation today, and he said he forgot, and no big deal. But we made it work. Yeah, the TBT was fun last year, man, and what a great venue at Hinkle Fieldhouse. Back tomorrow with Dylan Sin, Kyle Neddenrip, and Rick Bozich as well. So we've got all kinds of things going on. Big thanks to each and every one of you. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. Looking forward to doing it again tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.